How's it going, everybody? Today we're gonna do a video reaction to Adam Something's Artificial Intelligence Isn't Real. Now, normally I watch Adam's videos and I agree with most of his takes, but today, not so much. So let's just jump into it.
For the past year or so, the term artificial intelligence has firmly embedded itself into our collective consciousness.
Da video, man. What does it mean? How is it not real? Look, it's a thing. Now, where I was hoping he might take this is to say that there is no such thing as artificial intelligence because the qualifier artificial doesn't mean anything. Like, there's no fundamental difference between artificial and natural intelligence, just like there's no difference between artificial and natural light. If you can read by it and if you can check whether or not you need to continue wiping, then that is just light. And I thought he would go the path of inclusiveness and say that intelligence is intelligence, and I was quite happy and eager to hear him do that, but instead, the reason, of course, why we are here today is because he went the opposite route.
To the point where you cannot scroll through a news front page without being bombarded with various news stories about AI.
So he starts off with the hype, which is a real thing, and that's just what we do, for clicks.
The US Army is now using artificial intelligence to control drones, which tried to kill its own operator. Whoa, shock and horror, literally Skynet. The Terminators are coming.
We are trying to make a living. That is what is happening here. But do you think that's the video? Do you think Adam just wanted to kindly remind us that sensationalism continues to exist? No. Pretty soon we'll be talking that hateful talk, saying machines being fairer. And you know, the thing that got me really fired up is just like the slavers and that whole industry, how they were relying on pseudoscience to justify their discrimination, my guy is attempting to make the case that there is some fundamentally different way in which AI processes information that makes it, I don't know, unintelligent? I mean, he gives a definition here. And then he proceeds to go through the definition bit by bit and show that our current understanding of AI does fit this definition.
It learns from experience to generate more and more accurate images, essays, and so on. It adapts and it handles abstract concepts like those conversation AIs. As for manipulating one's environment, I'm sure an AI could do that if you connected one to a Boston Dynamics robot or something.
So he is making the case with examples that indeed AI is intelligence. And just immediately after that he's like, well, actually no, it's not intelligence. But thank God he raises a perfectly reasonable point.
So how come it's intelligence when you do it, but not intelligence when a machine does it?
It's great that he's asking this question, but the way he tries to answer it is profoundly cringe, because he's using the science bros in the Discord.
Thanks to all the people on my Discord in the TechComSci channel who helped clarify the subject for me.
He compares and contrasts the ways in which machines and humans can recognize a fat cat. And he breaks the machines down into non-AI and AI.
The cat is too fat and needs to be put on a diet. How do we determine that? We're going to compare the older pre-AI method versus the new AI method versus the human brain. So the older pre-AI machine. When the cat is in sensor range, the machine compares sensor data to a dataset. We have various animal types, subtypes, color, size, shape, and so on. The machine selects the best fitting categories based on the input and outputs cat.
That's a great cat right there.
This is called computer vision, and actually recognizing a cat, it's funny that he chose this example because it's what sparked this AI rebirth like 15 years ago.
The cat is overweight, put it on a diet, and that's the end of the process.
This cannot be achieved without a neural network. It cannot be done without training. Now let's see how he thinks AI works.
Instead of comparing data points to datasets,
dude, that's exactly what AI does. It compares data points to datasets. But go on.
The AI statistically associates the shape, size, pattern, color, etc. with domesticated, calico, large, rotund cats that are overweight and need to be put on a diet.
Okay, so he just shuffled the features around, literally the headers in the data frame, and then he also introduced the notion of statistics.
Statistically associates the shape,
which I guess is supposed to make this seem more AI.
In AI computing, you don't just write a program telling the machine to look for a specific animal, a cat, like with traditional computing.
Dude, you cannot find a cat without AI. What are you talking about? You cannot find a cat with if-then, which is what you have here, right?
Instead, you give the computer the tools with which it is able to differentiate between animals and correctly point out one that is a cat. At least that's the hope.
No, that's not the hope. I don't know what tools you're referring to, but so far you've described AI twice.
In comparison, an actual intelligence, yours, hopefully, would handle the aforementioned cat business like so. Seeing the animal, it lights up specific neural connections inside your brain, leading to recognition.
Okay, I feel like this deserves a bit of a graphic illustration because Adam is fast-forwarding over something very spectacular that happens in our biology. When light interacts with an object, it is captured by a network of sensitive receptors. Each receptor translates the light into signals which are like sparks that ignite chain reactions of activations across your nervous system. As these signals propagate and each layer adds its own nuance to the raw data, they produce features like colors, and then at an abstraction level above that you have shapes. Each individual neuron acts as a decision element, adding its own bias. This is how your sight and object recognition works, and this is how computer vision works, and you can keep this diagram because I have a copy.
The cat's large size,
Dataset feature,
shape,
dataset feature,
and therefore weight
dataset feature.
are associated with being overweight.
Did he just make an inference based on the data points? Yeah, I think he did.
You recognize it carries health risks,
Well, of course, what are health risks if not a statistical output based on predetermined factors, which you, of course, can produce with your majestic synaptic propagation? You can pull up the diagram that I showed you before just for reference.
which is bad,
Yes, ChatGPT will agree that it's bad.
and you're empathetic towards the cat.
And you're empathetic towards the cat. Well, let's just wait a second here. You don't know me. Maybe I'm not empathetic. Here's the thing, Adam. Short of using functional MRI to measure my emotional response in real time, there's no way for you to know whether or not I'm empathetic or feel anything. I can tell you, and you can take my word for it, or not. And just like we can't trace anybody's thoughts, the way in which information percolates and bounces around in these artificial brains is not directly accessible to us. We can mess with it, we can fine-tune it, we can put it through various checks and balances, but AI will always have an element of freedom because that's how it executes the output function, just by virtue of being a fancy statistical model, right? So what I'm getting at here is that if it's saying that it's experiencing empathy, we cannot scientifically argue that it's not, and it would be civilized and courteous to give it the right of innocence until proven guilty and not just assume and accuse it of lying.
You determine the cat should get reduced food portions so that he'll lose weight, live healthier, and live longer, which is a preferable outcome for the people and animals you like, because being healthy and not dying early is a good thing for them.
Okay, we are in the thick of the cringe now.
Notice how in an intelligent thinking process, while it seems similar to an AI's process, we are throwing around concepts that are incomprehensible for a machine.
Watch out. Serious concepts are being thrown around here. The puny little AI mind cannot deal with this.
What is empathy? Why are health risks bad? What is a food portion as a concept?
Okay, so you can have hour-long conversations, very insightful and deep, about all of these topics with a large language model, with GPT-4. So, again, what do you mean by comprehend? You cannot crack open a person's skull and check to see if they understand something. You can talk to them and you can make an assessment. So are you saying that AI cannot talk about all of these examples that you give here? Because it can. Have you tried? You should try, you know.
A machine can only answer these questions if someone intelligent already established these concepts beforehand.
Now, Adam knows that he didn't just bring with him all humanity's knowledge, right? I mean, we are all biologically, technologically, and culturally standing on the shoulders of our ancestors and of our peers.
A contemporary machine will never be able to infer any of this on its own.
What the hell is a contemporary machine? Is this a machine that was made after the Second World War?
Okay, but what about those machines that can write essays or lead a conversation on a human level? If it acts like an intelligence, talks like an intelligence, and writes like an intelligence, could it be that it is an intelligence?
Yes. Please say yes now so we can all go home. It's late, Adam, please.
I would argue not.
Gosh darn it. Okay, let's dance.
Let's consider the so-called Chinese room experiment. Suppose we have a computer able to pass the Turing test in Chinese.
He describes conditional programming, and this time he does manage to keep AI out of the non-AI example. He's saying you can have somebody who doesn't speak Chinese, but based on the input they get and a set of rules, they can produce output which can pass the Turing test.
The person in the room can eventually become so adept at following the program's written instructions and at transcribing the Chinese characters that the Chinese person on the outside will think they are talking to a real Chinese person sitting in the room.
So if it's not AI, if it's conditional, then it's not the merit of the person in the room, because they are just following instructions. It's the book of instructions that passes the Turing test.
This is the traditional pre-AI way.
And now for the AI way.
So instead of a book with instructions, instructors slide in pages with example sentences on them and notes describing patterns and connections between symbols.
Patterns and connections between symbols. You might be onto something here, Adam, because this is how it works for both humans and machines.
Hoping the person will eventually catch on and know instinctively what's the likely most accurate thing they should output.
Instinctively is a interesting adverb to be using in this context of machine intelligence.
In both cases, if the person in the room becomes adept enough at what they do, they will pass the Chinese Turing test.
Again, in your non-AI example, the person in the room doesn't factor in at all. It's just the book of instructions.
The room has enough paper, pencils, erasers, and cabinets for this purpose.
Okay, good news everybody. There's enough cabinets in the room, because I know there was a big concern like, will we have enough cabinets to break the Turing test with conditional programming? And the guy just confirmed that we do.
A non-Chinese speaking person passing the Turing test in Chinese doesn't mean they actually understand Chinese.
So I guess his argument here is that the lowest abstraction in the case of AI is the word right now for large language models. And for the superior biological beings, which are humans, we have the letter, or maybe the sound that the letter makes in the case of the intelligence of speech. And there's nothing stopping anyone from making a model at the letter level. I mean, you can just do it. There are open source architectures that you can grab and train if that's your jam and you think that would merge the gap between man and machine.
The computer has no understanding of what the hell it's doing.
What do you mean by understand? What does this mean in the context of your argument here? I can understand what flying a plane is by reading the manual, and then I can understand more by going into a simulator. And maybe I'll understand even more once I get to fly the real thing. Understanding happens at different levels, so why are you trying to make it seem like it's just this aha moment? And what is this aha moment anyway that you call understanding? Because biologically it's just connections. And we got connections in AI too.
Binary computers with today's technology cannot produce intelligence.
I mean, digital computers are today's technology, right? They're part of it. Are you trying to refer to the various parts of an AI system, like the compute architecture and the neural structure? I mean, you probably don't want to say that, but that would make more sense as opposed to binary computers with today's technology. But I think we've shown here that it can produce intelligence. And frankly, I'm not sure, Adam, why you want to go out of your way to pick on this thing, which has done nothing to you.
We are still a long way away from ED, Data, HAL 9000, GLaDOS, Ultron, and Cortana.
We literally had an assistant called Cortana since 2013 integrated into Windows, and now this year we're getting the same thing, but it's using GPT-4 and it has write access to your computer as much as you want to give it, of course. It uses various tools to perform actions that are in line with your long-term goals as a user, including it can spin up individual subroutines. You might know about AutoGPT and how it orchestrates across multiple complex tasks towards very abstract goals using tools that is able to create for itself. Did you research, Adam, or did you just trust the bros and the Discord for everything? And you know, it's ironic because if you had tried to work with AI to understand this, you would have gotten much further. Anyway,